Welcome back, Dreadfuls. I'm Jean,
I'm Derek.
and this is the Dr. Dread podcast, where we discuss all things unusual, unsettling, and unexplained. And I have something even still different, Derek, that we really haven't done yet,
How is this still different from all the other stuff we've done?
because now we have an unexplained, multiple unexplained deaths.
That is like saying, I went to Taco Bell, but I got a piece of chicken that was fried.
What? How are unexplained deaths like fried chicken at Taco Bell?
I don't know. I'm just trying to connect dots here.
I don't know either, but actually, based on my research, maybe not so unexplained anymore, but we will get to that. Anyway, we're talking about the Dyatlov Pass Incident.
Yeah, never heard of it.
Never heard of this one? Okay, good. Well, you're in for a good story. So, this is an event in which 9 Soviet hikers died in the northern Ural Mountains between February 1st and 2nd in 1959 under mysterious circumstances.
Okay, maybe I have.
And until very recently, we really didn't know what happened to them. Now we have a pretty good idea.
Maybe. I don't know. This could be a 50-50 if I do or not.
All right, well, we shall see. So in 1959, a group of hikers was formed for a skiing expedition across the northern Ural Mountains in Sverdlovsk Oblast, Soviet Union. And I apologize in advance for my pronunciation of any Russian names. So, the group was formed and led by Igor Dyatlov, hence the Dyatlov Pass Incident, who was a 23-year-old radio engineering student at the Ural Polytechnical Institute, which is now the Ural Federal University, so basically a college there.
No offense to this dude, but why the fuck would they have a radio engineer be the leader of a hiking expedition?
You are allowed to have hobbies when you're in college, Derek, apart from whatever your major is.
That is fair, but
He just liked hiking, okay? He was a radio engineering student and he happened to like hiking. Okay? And they were actually good at it. Him and all the members in this group were actually very good at it.
oh,
Yeah, so Igor Dyatlov was the leader, and he assembled 9 other people, mostly other students at the university, 8 men and 2 women. And like I said, all of them were very experienced hikers. They were what was called a grade 2 hiker with ski tour experience, and this trip would allow them to get their grade 3 certification once they returned from this trip.
they have fucking grades over in Russia now?
They have grades for difficulties in, long multi-day hikes. Yes.
What, do you get a star after you complete one?
I don't know. I'm not Russian and I wasn't around in the 1950s. I don't know how this works.
You get a gold star?
But apparently the grade 3 that they were going to be getting when they completed was the highest certification available in the Soviet Union at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So hikers had to get this grade 3 certification, hikers had to travel a total of 300 kilometers or 190 miles of logged hikings.
That's a lot of fucking miles.
That's a lot of miles. So like I said, they're very experienced. They have done a lot of hiking. So the route that they planned was designed by Dylatov's group, and they were going to reach the far northern regions of the Sverdlovsk Oblast region and the upper streams of the Lazva River. And so the city route commission approved the route. And apparently there's a whole division of the Sverdlovsk Committee of Physical Culture and Sport. Apparently they have whole divisions have to approve these multi-day, multi-trek routes you go to, kind of like our national park system, I think, how you have to let the park rangers know and what your plans are for going out into multi-day hikes into national parks. I believe it's something similar to that. And so they approved the route they were going to go and confirmed the group of 10 people on January 8th, 1959.
So they're like, okay, let's see if this trail is deadly, essentially.
No, it's supposed to be it's a remote, it's a dangerous hike just because it's remote, it's up in the mountains, stuff can happen, but it wasn't supposed to be inherently dangerous.
Okay, I'm putting a huge fucking asterisk on that.
So the goal of the expedition was to reach Otorten, I think I'm pronouncing that right, a mountain 10 kilometers north of the site where this incident actually occurred. And also, something to keep in mind for all this, their thing was approved on January 8th. They were going to start the expedition at the very end of January. So they were going to be doing the bulk of their hiking in February, which is the most difficult time to do these hikes for that area.
Well, that's interesting. You gotta wait a whole fucking month. What do they? The fucking people have to go hike it themselves? Be like, all right, this is fine.
No, I mean they got approved for it, and then once they know that they're approved for it, then I'm sure they had to plan how to get out there to where they were going to be hiking. So it takes some planning.
Fair enough.
So on January 23rd, Dyatlov and his group were issued their route book, which included their course following the number 5 trail, which is, I'm guessing, was an established trail through this area. And so that day they left Sverdlovsk City, and away they went. And so their group consisted of Igor Dyatlov, the leader. Dyatlov. Yes, the beginning of his name sounds like diet, but it is not the same word.
Dyatlov.
Like I said, I apologize for my Russian. So there was Igor Dyatlov, Yuri Doroshenko, Ludmila Dubinina. I have no idea how to pronounce his name. Georgy Krivonishenko, Alexander Kolevatov.
What is up with the whole shanking in Russian names?
It's just a difference in the language, my dude. Sineda Komogorova, Rustem Slobodin, Nikolai Thibaut Brignoles, and Yuri Yudin. And then Semyon Zolotaryov. But for unknown reasons, he asked to be called Sasha, which is a Russian nickname for Alexander. So in most of the writings and documents and studies on this incident, he's called Alexander Zolotaryov instead of Semyon Zolotaryov.
So Sarah, okay, got it.
So yeah, those are the names of the people on this group.
Well, that doesn't make fucking sense.
What?
Sarah equals Alexander? That's like fucking saying 2 + 2 is 15.
Not Sarah, Sasha.
Or Sasha, whatever the fuck. It's close enough.
I don't pretend to be an expert on this. I just know that Sasha actually is a common name, and it's a man's name in Russian. I don't know why it's short for Alexander. I don't speak Russian. I'm just reporting what it is.
That seems shady.
It's not shady. It's just it's a nickname. It's kind of like Bill is a short name for William.
Well, that doesn't make fucking sense.
I know. It doesn't make sense either. I don't know why these things are the way they are. It just is.
That's like saying your name is Tom when your name is Timothy or Thomas.
Well, Tom is a short name for Thomas.
Fair enough.
Okay.
That's a bad example.
So anyway, the group got their route book on January 23rd. They're ready to go. So they took a train and arrived at Ivdel, which is a town at the center of the northern province of Sverdlovsk Oblast, which is the area where they were going. They got there on January 25th, and then they took a truck to Vizhai, which is basically a lorry village, so basically just like a little trucking village. And it's the last stop on their route up to where they were going. It's the last settlement in that area.
Does the whole train and truck miles count as miles?
Not for the hiking, I don't believe so. No.
Well, that's bullshit.
How does it count as hiking miles if you're riding them by train and by truck?
I was there. I read those miles. I deserve those fucking miles.
Oh,
I waited all that fucking time. I deserve those goddamn miles.
That's not, I don't think, again, I don't know for sure, but I don't think that's how getting your different certifications for your hiking credentials works. You have to actually hike the miles.
Well, you know what I would tell the motherfuckers they didn't want to get my credential? I'd be like, were you there? No, you weren't. So give me my goddamn miles.
Okay, anyway, no, I don't think the train and the truck miles account. But like I said, they got to Vizhai, and then on January 27th, they start their trek out toward Gola Ortedin, which is the mountain that they were trying to summit. But one day in, one member, Yuri Yudin, who had several health issues, including rheumatism and a congenital heart defect, had to turn back due to knee and joint pain, so he couldn't continue the hike.
No offense, but why was he there in the first place?
Again, he must have been okay because all of these people were grade 2 hikers. So despite his ailments, he must have pushed through and done several of these hikes before. But anyway, he started having knee and joint pain, and he couldn't continue the hike. So he turned back, and the remaining 9 hikers continued on.
Little did we know he was the smartest motherfucker there.
Yeah, he is the only one. He was the only survivor out of this group because he had to turn back.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
All right, well, here we go. So, the last few days of the group have been pieced together from the diaries and pictures that were developed from the cameras that were found around their last campsite.
Do we have these photos on hand?
You can find them. You can look online for them, and you can find some of them. It's mostly just pictures of the scenery and stuff.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, no, they didn't get any pictures of what actually happened because then there wouldn't have really been a mystery around it.
You know, if I was like the last person, I'd be like taking photos. Be like, this is what happened. I'd be like vlogging to like, we're fucked.
Well, we'll get to that, but we'll get to what happened. But apparently, they didn't have time to start taking pictures of anything.
Was like writing in a journal vlogging before vlogging?
Yes, remember this is 1959. They don't have vlogging.
Fair enough.
So yes, journaling was the vlogging of 1959.
That makes 100% sense.
That was how you kept records of what you were doing at the time. So the last few days, based on piecing the journals and the camera and the photos from the cameras together, went like this. On January 31st, the group arrived at the end of a highland area and began preparing to start climbing the mountain. So they'd made it to the mountain, sort of a highland area up at the base of the mountain. They were preparing to start climbing.
All right.
While they were there, they stored surplus food and equipment in a woodland valley that they would come back to so they could pick it up. They'd need this stuff on their return trek back. But, going up the mountain, they didn't want to carry excess weight.
They got strawberries.
Why strawberries?
They're good fucking fruit.
I mean, yeah, they are a good fruit. I don't know how long they keep. I don't know that they keep terribly long. I don't know that's what you want on a like a multi-week hiking trip, but yeah, strawberries are a good food.
Well, you know what? That's how you tell when strawberries go bad, when they start turning white.
Yeah, when they turn white, that's mold, my dude. That's not just going bad, that is mold.
Yeah, I know.
And no, you don't want to eat those.
You don't want to eat a white strawberry.
No.
They're not rare. They'll kill you.
Yeah. So January 31st, they get to the highland area. They store their excess food and supplies. The next day, February 1st, they start moving through a mountain pass. And it seemed like they'd planned to travel over the pass and then make camp for the next night on the opposite side of the pass. But by that point, weather conditions were declining and they were experiencing snowstorms. And when you're up in the mountains, when you have a snowstorm, you're likely dealing with reduced visibility.
Well, no shit. It's a fucking mountain.
Yeah, if you're up on a mountain, there's lots of snow. You really can't see terribly far in front of you.
Were they not expecting this or something?
It's always a possibility. I mean, it's 1959. They don't have the predictive weather technology that we do now.
But still, do they not think if we went up on a mountain, I don't think we'll see a lot of snow?
No, they know to expect that, but just when a snowstorm kicks up, whether you expect it or not, you're still gonna lose your visibility.
Well, that is true, but they should have known.
Again, the snowstorms happen, and there's really no good way to predict this. And then mountains are notorious for very rapidly changing weather. So it can be clear as day 1 hour, and then the next hour a snowstorm is rolled in. So yeah, so they didn't know. But weather conditions were declining, snowstorms, and it seems they lost their sense of direction, ended up deviating west of where they were supposed to go, closer to Kholat Syakhl, which is another mountain. So not the one they were trying to get to. They ended up deviating toward the west.
So they took a fucking detour. It's like, okay, we can't go on that one. Let's go on this one. Let's see if it's not as bad.
Well, an unintentional detour.
They had compasses back then. They should use.
The compass can only help you so much, my dude. But anyway, when they realized their mistake, The group decided to set up camp on the slope of the mountain rather than moving 1.5 kilometers, which is 0.93 miles, so just under a mile, downhill to a more forested area that would have given them a little more cover from the weather.
They made some huge errors here.
Possibly. We don't know for sure. We don't really know why the group decided on this course of action. Some people have speculated that Dyatlov didn't want to lose the elevation, the altitude that they'd gained, because again, they were trying to summit this other mountain, or he simply decided that the group could use it as an opportunity to practice camping on a mountain slope. But either way, they decided that's where they were going to stay, and that's the last of the records from the group.
Everything's just fucking gone now.
Well, that's when this incident happened, and whatever happened to them killed them all. So that's the end of the journals and the photos.
They saw the Yeti.
Maybe.
The Yeti hit a backbreaker.
Maybe. So anyway, before the group set off on this mountain, Dyatlov had agreed to send a telegram to their sports club as soon as the group returned to Visay, the little lorry village. So when they got back, they were going to radio and let them know, hey, we're back at this little lorry village. And so they were scheduled to be back on February 12th. And also when Yuri Yudin, the one who had the joint and ankle issues, left the group, Dyatlov did tell him that, yeah, we're expected back on the 12th, but we might be back a little later than that.
Oh, shit.
That's not uncommon when you're doing these types of hikes. So,
I mean, well, the first time you thinking, well, shit, something must be wrong.
well, that was all the way back when the guy just left the group.
You know what they should have done?
What?
They should have, slid down the hill. You know how fun that would have been?
So, sledding?
Yeah. Like, if you need to get back quick, just go down.
This is multi days out. You can't just sled down a mountain over the distance that it takes you to hike over multiple days. Because remember, Yuri left the group on the 28th, and this happened the night of February 1st. So we've got January 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, and then February 1st.
Well, clearly they're lost, so
this is multiple days that they've been hiking before this happened.
Well, clearly they're lost. They just need to go sledding.
They're not lost. They just deviated west a little bit from their route that one night.
We'll go back the other way.
They still know where they're going. But anyway, like I said, they were scheduled to be back at Visay on February 12th, even though they told Yuri, hey, it might be a little bit longer than that. So the 12th came and went. No message came from the group, but still no immediate action was taken because small delays are common on expeditions like this. And Dyatlov did tell Yuri that, hey, we expect that we might be a little longer than the 12th before we're back.
What counts as a small delay?
A couple days.
I think that's bullshit. It should be like 1 or 2 days, not a couple. Like, that person's been gone for 3 or 4 days. I wonder where they are.
Hey, those hiking trips can be extended by things like weather conditions and stuff. You don't know exactly how long any one of these is going to take.
Fair enough.
So anyway, the 12th came and went. They didn't do anything right away. But by the time we got to February 20th, relatives of the travelers began demanding that a rescue operation be sent.
8 days later, they're still gone.
Yeah, they're still gone, and yeah, the family's like, okay, yeah, by this point you need to go find them. So the first rescue groups that were sent consisted of just volunteer students and teachers, but then later, when these initial search efforts yielded no results, both the army and the militia, which is basically the Russian police, became involved, and they sent planes and helicopters to help join the search.
Yeah, let's send teachers and students up the fucking mountain. Let's see where they are.
When they say students and teachers, I assume they mean students and teachers of mountaineering, basically.
Yeah, let's just send... Hey, you teach history, right? Okay, we need you to go up this
Again, of mountaineering, not history or other random things.
What if they were short-staffed that day?
Okay, then maybe they did tap the history and philosophy and English professors of the local university or something. I don't know.
We need you to hike up a fucking mountain and look for these fucking people.
But I don't think that's what they meant. So they eventually got the army and the police involved, and finally on February 26th, the rescue op team found the group's abandoned and badly damaged tent on Kholat Syakhl, that other mountain. And the campsite was very weird. So, Mikhail Shiravin, the student who found the tent, said the tent was torn half down and covered in snow. It was empty, and all the group's belongings and shoes had been left behind.
The hell?
Yeah, so whatever happened to them quickly enough to cause them to abandon their gear and their shoes and their tent in the middle of a snowstorm.
Probably a fucking bear.
Maybe.
Wolf.
So, investigators said the tent had been cut open from the inside.
Okay, maybe not.
Yeah, so they didn't just open the tent, they cut the tent open from the inside. There were 9 sets of footprints left by people wearing either only socks or a single shoe or even barefoot. So nobody had footwear on.
Okay.
The tracks could be followed, and they led them down to the edge of the nearby wood, the one that was just under a mile further down the mountain. After about 500 meters or about 1,600 feet, the tracks ended up covered with snow. And at the forest edge, at the edge of that forest, just under a mile away from the campsite, the search party found visible remains of a small fire. And there they found the first 2 bodies. Those of Georgy Krivonoshenko and Yuri Doroshenko. Both were shoeless and dressed only in their underwear.
So you're telling me something scared them so fucking bad they ran.
Something scared them so badly they they cut their tent open and ran out in the middle of a sub-freezing snowstorm with nothing on.
They saw Owlman.
Owlman?
Yeah, I think that's a thing in Russia.
I've never heard of Owlman. Is Owlman a cousin of Mothman?
Or no, wait, it's not Owlman. They had their own version of Mothman.
So it is a cousin of Mothman.
Yeah, like second removed.
Second removed.
Yeah. He can like summon moths.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard this one story where this dude's like, the Mothman summoned so many moths that it like flooded around this dude's entire cabin up in the woods.
Well, that's creepy.
And then he disappeared.
That's one I haven't heard of now. I'll have to research that one.
Yeah.
And I've heard of most of these weird ones like this.
Yeah. Second removed cousin.
Second removed cousin from our Mothman.
Yeah.
Okay. So they found the first 2 bodies there at the tree line. The branches on the tree they were found next to were broken up to 5 meters high, which suggests that one of the hikers had climbed up the tree looking for something, possibly their campsite, because they might have gotten disoriented and turned around while fleeing the tent. And then again, if there's a snowstorm, low visibility. So between the tree line and the campsite, the researchers kept looking that area, and then they found 3 more bodies. Sineda Kolmogorova, Rustem Slobodin, and Igor Dyatlov himself. All of them died in positions that suggested they were trying to return to the tent.
So you know what? They leave the tent and then they go back.
Yeah, so again, it seems like something made them flee the tent, and then once they'd left, they got turned around, lost their sense of direction, and were trying to make it back to the tent.
If they had a knife, why not just try to fight the thing?
It didn't seem... None of them were found with weapons.
Then how did they cut the tent?
I don't know. Well, they must have had a knife at some point, but none of the reports say any of the bodies that were found had a knife on them. So maybe they left it in the tent.
Well, that's just stupid. If you could fight the thing, fight it.
We don't even know that it was a thing.
What? So one of them just started going nuts or something?
Well, we'll get to theories in a minute, but we're not done yet.
I'm confused. What just starts freaking out?
I know this is a weird case, but yeah, we're not done yet. So remember, we found 2 at the tree line, 3 more in between the tree line and the tent. So we're up to 5 that we found now. There were 9, so there are 4 more. And finding the remaining 4, Ludmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolevatov, Nikolai Thibault Brignoles, and Alexander Zolotaryov took more than 2 months.
God damn, they were good at hiding.
They were good at hiding. They were finally found on May 4th under 4 meters or 13 feet of snow in a ravine 75 meters or 246 feet further into the woods from the tree line.
Damn, they were really running.
Yeah, they went far. 3 of the 4 of them were better dressed than the others, and there were signs that some of the clothing found on these 4 had been taken from the others.
Stole their shit.
They I guess they took some. I guess the others had maybe died first, and then they took their clothing because they all ran out with next to no clothing on.
Fair enough.
For example, Ludmila Dubinina was wearing Georgy Krivonoshenko's burned, torn trousers, and her left foot and shin were wrapped in another torn jacket.
Okay, then.
Mm-hmm. So they finally found everyone, and obviously the Russian government launches an investigation to figure out what the hell happened to them.
Mothman's second removed cousin.
Because, yeah, I mean, at this point, maybe, because this is a very weird scene they found. So, investigation started after the first 5 bodies were discovered. So, the 2 right by the tree line and the ones in between the trees and the tent. So, medical examination found no injuries on any of those first 5 bodies that might have led to their deaths, and it was concluded that they all died of hypothermia, which, you're out in sub-zero temperatures on a mountain with next to no clothes on. That's expected.
That's a scary way to go out because your body's like you're so cold for so long, then your body suddenly heats up, losing its last of your body heat.
Mm-hmm.
You're fucked.
Yeah. That's not a good way to go. So, one of those bodies, Rustem Slobodin, did have a small crack in his skull, a small fracture in his skull, but it wasn't determined to be a fatal wound. So whatever caused that wasn't what killed him.
Maybe he hit something with his head.
Maybe. So once they found the other 4 bodies, the ones found further in the forest in that ravine, that changed the ideas on what happened. So all 4 of those bodies were found at the bottom of that ravine in a creek of running stream water. 3 of those hikers had fatal injuries. Nikolai Thibault Brignoles had major skull damage, and Ludmila Dubinina and Alexander Zolotaryov both had major chest fractures.
Damn.
Yeah. And according to investigators, the force required to cause the type of damage that they had would have to be extremely high, comparable to that of a car crash.
Fucking car just spawned on them?
Again, this is really weird because they're just out in the mountains, and now they have these injuries, one a skull fracture and 2 chest fractures that are consistent with things like you see in a car crash. So whatever did that to them had a tremendous amount of force.
Yeah, I think it's a Yeti. I'm going with Yeti because if a Yeti slaps you in the chest, you would get that damage.
Well, here's the weird thing. The bodies had no external wounds associated with the bone fractures. So it's almost as if they've been subjected to just a high level of pressure.
What if the grizzly, no, not grizzly, but what if the Yeti picked them up and just hugged them and then...
You're still thinking it's a Yeti.
I'm trying to get Yeti. Yeti just squeezed them and then boom.
I mean, there's a bunch other theories, so we might as well toss the Yeti in there.
Oh, I'm surprised that wasn't the first fucking one.
But in addition to the major fractures, all of the bodies also had soft tissue damage to their head and face. Ludmila Dubinina was missing her tongue, eyes, part of her lips, and some other facial tissue. Alexander Zolotaryov was missing his eyes, and Alexander Kolevatov was missing his eyebrows. But a forensic expert who performed the post-mortem examinations concluded that those injuries didn't contribute to their deaths. They were inflicted post-mortem, most likely due to the bodies just being in the stream. You have stream wildlife nibbling on them. They just start decomposing in the water. That's what caused those.
Yeah.
No, that's motherfucking aliens.
Thank you, Rick. Rick thinks it's aliens.
They were probing the eyeballs. They were investigating human eyeballs.
When critters start munching on bodies, they're going to start munching on the softest parts first, which are your eyes, your tongue, your lips, and the soft tissues around your face.
Yeah.
So those are going to be the first things that are eaten.
So is that the end of the story?
No, that is not the end of the story.
What the fuck?
So in addition to the strange injuries that those three had, small levels of radiation were also found on one of the victims' clothing.
Like I said, aliens.
Holy shit, it's aliens.
Rick is still on aliens.
No, it made sense. Fucking aliens. Aliens crash landed, did their thing, and then, yeah.
What he said.
All right, maybe aliens. But yeah, so, and at the time the hikers left their tent, remember we saw 9 tracks leading away from it, so they'd all left the tent on their own accord, on foot. The investigators estimated the temperature would likely have been around -25 to -30 degrees Celsius, which is -13 to -22 degrees Fahrenheit.
Damn.
So yeah, freezing, with a storm blowing, which, like I said, would have reduced their visibility, which is why they likely couldn't find their way back to the tent. And yet they were all only partly dressed, all of them without shoes. One of them had one shoe on. That was it.
See, aliens.
So, yeah, odd that they would go out into those conditions undressed.
It would make sense if it's aliens.
Well, you're going to like that theory even more then, because another group of hikers that was about 50 kilometers or 31 miles south of where this group was, reported that they saw strange orange spheres in the sky to the north on the night of the incident. And similar spheres were also observed in Ivdel, that little town they stopped at, and adjacent areas, all during the period of February to March of 1959. Various independent witnesses, including the Meteorology Service and the military, reported seeing these things.
They got jumped by aliens.
So, like I said, you're going to like the alien theory after hearing that.
One of the aliens just injected them with radiation. I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, how a ghost stick their hand through you or something like that. The alien, like, morphed into a different dimension, sticked his hand through the person, and injected the radiation.
It's as nutty a theory as some of them.
It just made sense at this point.
And then also Yuri Kuntsevich, who was 12 years old at the time this happened and attended several of the hikers' funerals, 5 of them, I think. He later became the head of the Dyatlov Foundation, which was founded in 1999 with the help of the Ural State Technical University. Their aim was to continue the investigation of the case and maintain the Dyatlov Museum to preserve the memory of the hikers. He recalls that of the 5 hikers whose funerals he attended, he said their skin had a, quote, deep brown tan.
Well, maybe they're the gray version of the aliens. It's the gray aliens. It's not the green ones. They encountered the gray ones.
And that accounts for their brown skin?
Yeah. And this is something. Maybe they have like some like coloring system that we don't know about. They can just turn people into different colors.
Okay, why do only the grays have that and not the green ones?
They're more advanced.
Okay, since when are the grays more advanced than the little green ones?
I mean, just look at the gray ones. They're taller. They're more advanced. They seem smarter.
Okay, if you say so.
And it's the first confirmed alien kills.
I always thought the grays and the greens were the same aliens. It's just variations in skin tone. Like we have variations in skin tone in humans.
The grays are smarter.
Now are you being racist among aliens?
I am not. If you look through history, the gray aliens were the ones who started. What was that fucking movie with Tom Cruise in it?
With Tom Cruise.
Yeah, where they were fighting the aliens.
War of the Worlds?
Yeah. They were gray aliens.
Okay, but in the end, those aliens were not smart because they got themselves exposed to all the diseases on Earth and it killed them because they did not have the immunities to deal with the viruses and the bacteria that we have here on Earth.
But they were first to invade.
That doesn't make them smart.
Fair enough, but they were first to invade, so they're technologically advanced.
Well, how do you know that the green ones weren't just as technologically advanced and said, nah, we're not going to mess with that?
We'll never know until they invade.
So?
War of the Worlds 2?
So where are you getting that the Greys are more advanced?
Well, they were the first ones to take out some humans.
Okay, all right. Off of the aliens, back to Dyatlov Pass. So, despite all the strangeness with the scene in which they found the bodies, the official conclusion of the initial investigation was that the group died because of, quote, a compelling natural force.
A compelling natural
A
force.
compelling natural force. At this point, they couldn't tell us what that compelling natural force was. And the investigation officially ended in May of 1959 because there was no identifiable guilty party. Some weird accident just happened. There was no one, that they could go after, no one they could charge with doing anything to the group. And so the files were sent to a secret archive.
I mean, unless they want to charge some supernatural force, I don't think they can, really do that.
Yeah, nothing to do with it. But so even though the files were sent to a secret archive in 1997, it was revealed that the negatives from the cameras were kept in a private archive of one of the investigators of the case, Lev Ivanov, and the film was later donated by Ivanov's daughter to the Dyatlov Foundation. So those were then made public, and then the diaries of the hiking party became part of Russia's public domain in 2009. So you can find and read the diaries if you can read Russian, which I can't.
Well, shit, we don't know what they said.
Yeah, so we're relying on translations, and those diaries were what was used to piece together the final days of the group. So we know roughly what they said.
They said, we're getting followed by some weird person.
I know if that were reported in the diaries, the investigations would have said that that's what they said.
I don't know. I can't read Russian
I
either.
don't think the diary said we're being followed by a weird person.
It would be a 9v1, so,
But anyway, on April 12th of 2018, Alexander Zolotaryov, he was one of the ones with the chest fractures. His remains were exhumed on the initiative of some journalists of the Russian tabloid newspaper Komsomolskaya Pravda. Apparently, they wanted to investigate this case again and see what they could find out. And when they exhumed Zolotaryov's remains, they got some contradictory results. One of the experts said that the character of the injuries resembled a person knocked down by a car, so nothing too different from what we knew before. A DNA analysis of Zolotaryov did not reveal any similarity to the DNA of his living relatives, which was odd.
The aliens swapped his DNA? Just took that DNA and left?
Maybe. Well, remember I said Alexander Zolotaryov was the one whose name actually Semyon Zolotaryov, and he asked to be called Sasha, and that's why all the reports call him Alexander.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns off that Zolotaryov's name was also not on the list of those buried at the Ivanovskoye Cemetery, which is where all the rest of the group was buried.
He just disappeared?
We don't really know, but still, reconstruction of the face from the exhumed skull did match post-war photographs of Zolotaryov, although journalists have expressed suspicions that another person was hiding under his identity after World War II.
Of course.
Maybe that's why he asked to be called Sasha, because it's actually a different guy using his name after World War II. We don't really know.
That'd be pretty shitty. It's like, I'm gonna steal this guy's identity. Oh, you're dead in a mountain.
No, like he picked up the identity like shortly after World War II, and then he's pretending to be this guy and then is the one that ends up dying on the mountain.
I'm still confused. Let's move on.
Basically, the guy who called himself Alexander Zolotaryov, they don't know if that was actually him or if it's someone pretending to be him, after, because he apparently served in World War II, and they don't know if someone took his identity and claimed to be him following World War II.
Wow. I guess that's how bad records are back then.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're relying on paper back then. Digital records were not a thing at that time.
Huh. That dude says he's this other dude. He probably is.
Yeah, they're just relying on paper records. And let's see. A mountain pass was later named Dyatlov Pass in honor of Igor Dyatlov, the group leader, But the actual incident occurred about just over a mile away from the pass that they named Dyatlov Pass.
Get your facts right.
I mean, where the event actually happened, there wasn't a mountain pass there to name. So I think they just found the closest mountain pass and named it after them.
Say, go 1 mile that way, then you'll be there.
Yeah.
That's what should be on the sign.
Yeah. And now there is a stone memorial near the actual site of the incident.
That must have been shitty to carry up there.
Yeah, I don't envy the people who carried that out there.
Yeah, they probably got a helicopter. Drop it off.
Yeah. But anyway, so on to theories of what happened.
Let's go.
Yeah. So the first theory, initial speculation back in 1959 when they started doing the investigation, that the indigenous Mansi people, which are reindeer herders local to the area, had attacked and murdered the group for encroaching on their lands. Several of the Mansi people were interrogated, but the investigation indicated that the nature of the deaths didn't support this hypothesis. Remember, several of them had just died of hypothermia, so no indication that anybody had killed them. Only the hikers' footprints were found in the area, no others. And there were no signs of hand-to-hand struggle.
They brought those people in, like, did you murder them? Like, murder who?
Yeah, that's probably about how it went.
What the fuck are you talking about? These people? I don't know who the fuck they are. Never seen them.
And the investigators, again, said that the injuries that were caused to the 3 bodies that had the major fractures weren't something that humans could have done. The force of the blows was too great, and again, there was no external damage associated with those fractures.
What if those were the people who were the aliens and they spawned cars on them?
So this little local indigenous people are the aliens, is what you're saying?
Maybe.
Yeah. No offense to the Mansi people. Derek's just being goofy. I don't think that's what happened.
Yeah, probably not.
So another theory is katabatic winds. So in 2019, a Swedish-Russian expedition was made to the site, and after investigation, they thought that a violent katabatic wind might have been a possible explanation for what happened. A katabatic wind is basically a downward slope wind caused by the flow of an elevated high-density air mass, basically up at the top of a mountain, down to a lower-density air mass. And so it's just basic gravity and air density physics at work. The higher density, colder air mass at the top of the mountain is going to, just by force of nature and a higher density object wanting to fall below a lighter density object, flow down the mountain to the lower density air mass.
All right.
So lots of wind moving very rapidly.
Well, if that was the case, they still probably would have had enough time to grab their equipment.
But depends on how quickly it happened. They're rare events and can be very violent, apparently. They were actually implicated in a 1978 case at Anaris Mountain in Sweden where 8 hikers were killed and 1 was severely injured. And just because of the way the mountains are, the topography of the location was noted to be very similar to that incident.
But still, they had enough time to escape.
Again, depending on when they noticed that this wind was coming, not necessarily. What supports this theory is that experts say a sudden katabatic wind would have made it impossible to stay in the tent, and the most rational course of action would have been for the hikers to cover the tent with snow and seek shelter in the tree line.
Yeah, that might be the case.
So, plausible. And
still don't explain their broken bones.
No, it doesn't explain the ones with fractures, and that's one of the strikes against that theory.
Maybe they didn't escape in time and they went flying off and then, stuff happened.
Maybe. So another theory is what they call infrasound. So another hypothesis, this one was proposed by a book written by Donnie Eichar in 2013 called Dead Mountain, which is that wind basically circulating around the slopes created what's called a Kármán vortex, which can produce infrasound capable of inducing panic attacks in humans.
What?
Yeah, so this basically sound pulses generated by wind as it passes over the tops of the mountains was responsible for causing actual physical discomfort in the hikers and mental distress. So I think from the way it's described, I think a similar effect to this is if you're ever riding in a car, I hate when people do this. I absolutely hate it. You're riding in a car and somebody rolls down one window.
Yeah, I don't really.
Yeah, that horrible, like, almost fluttering, beating sound you get in your ears when you're riding in a car and somebody rolls down one window and you don't have the other window rolled down on the opposite side of the car.
Yeah, that's never bothered me.
That's never bothered you? It bothers the ever-loving shit out of me. I absolutely hate it.
I'm just like, cool, you do you.
Yeah, sometimes I actually have to plug my ears when people do that because the sensation of that is so uncomfortable for me. Maybe I'm just weird, but I think it's obviously a larger scale and more forceful version of that.
The only thing the wind has scared me is tornadoes, but any other wind is nothing. But you won't catch me near a tornado.
Fair enough. But anyway, Icar claims that because of the panic induced by this wind, the hikers were driven to leave the tent by whatever means necessary, and they fled down the slope. And then by the time they got further down the hill, they would have been out of the infrasound's path, and so they would have regained their composure. But by that point, it's dark, it's snowy, there's the snowstorm going on, and they can't find their way back to the tent.
Well, I don't think that theory is true.
That's one of the weaker theories, in my opinion.
What accounts for them breaking their fucking bones?
He speculates that the injuries on the 3 victims with the broken bones are a result of them stumbling over the edge of a ravine in the darkness and landing on the rocks at the bottom.
Yeah, no.
But again, even that would have caused some form of external injury. So another theory is military testing.
What?
Yep. One theory speculates that the campsite fell in the path of a Soviet parachute mine exercise. Parachute mines are basically mines that detonate while they are still in the air instead of when they hit the Earth's surface, and they produce injuries similar to those experienced by the hikers, heavy internal damage with relatively little external trauma.
The other 5 would have it.
But yeah, it doesn't explain why only 3 of them had it. But anyway, this theory says that, the Russian military started, or the Soviet military at the time started doing this parachute mine exercise. The hikers were caught in the path of it. The loud explosions woke them up, so they, fled the tent in the shoeless panic. And again, same theory as the infrasound. Once they fled the tent, they found themselves unable to return.
Yeah, that sounds bullshit too.
They get lost in the snowstorm and they can't find the tent. But interestingly enough, there are records of parachute mines being tested by the Soviet military in that general area at the time the hikers were there. And this theory does coincide with the reported sightings of the strange glowing orbs, in the sky that several of the witnesses said they saw around that time.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Huh. Still, the other 5 didn't get it, though, so...
But the big hole in that theory is only 3 of them ended up with those injuries. And the last theory is what they call paradoxical undressing. And you mentioned this in talking about dying by freezing to death, how your body heats up at the very last instance when you're dying, when you're freezing to death.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the strange phenomenon of where when someone is freezing to death in the last stages of hypothermia, they start actually feeling warm. And so people who are freezing to death will take their clothes off because they feel a burning warmth. And we do know that many of them did die of hypothermia, but that doesn't make sense because even if they had been in hypothermia and had been starting to feel, warm, they are experienced hikers. They would have been familiar with the dangers of hypothermia, and they would have known that, okay, in these conditions that we're out in right now, a freezing cold blizzard, even though we feel warm, from our perspective, we feel warm, we know that we are not in these conditions, and we should not be taking our clothes off in sub-freezing temperatures.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would have known that, as experienced as these guys were. And that brings us to the final theory, and the most likely scenario for what happened. And that is the avalanche theory.
Okay.
Yes. In February 2019, Russian authorities reopened investigation into the Dyatlov Pass Incident. At this point, only 3 possible explanations were being considered: an avalanche, a slab avalanche, and a hurricane. So a slab avalanche is a very specific type of avalanche where there's a more solid layer of snow on top, and then there's fluffier, weaker snow underneath that more frozen layer. and a layer of snow breaks away, that the more frozen layer of snow breaks away from the weaker layer of snow underneath and slides down the mountain slope. So basically, it's a more solid layer of snow sliding down as opposed to just loose snow tumbling down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually the most dangerous type of avalanche and responsible for the most avalanche-related deaths.
Give me the fluffy snow. I'll take that. I can fight it.
Yeah, that's better than the slab avalanche. So they did that investigation, and then on July 11th of 2020, they basically announced that the avalanche was now the official cause of death for the Dyatlov group in 1959. And later, independent computer simulations suggested that, yeah, that's likely the case.
Would that attest for the broken bones?
We will get to that. So in summarizing the report, again, this is a Russian report, so I'm relying on translations here, but Douglas Preston, a writer for The New Yorker, had this to say about it. The most appealing aspect of Kuryakov's scenario, he's one of the researchers who decided that it was an avalanche, is that the Dyatlov party's actions no longer seem irrational. The snow slab, so they're working with the slab avalanche theory, according to Green, would probably have made loud cracks and rumbles as it fell across the tent, making an avalanche seem imminent. Kuryakov noted that although the skiers made an error in the placement of their tent, everything they did subsequently was textbook. They conducted an emergency evacuation to ground that would seem safe from the avalanche. They took shelter in the woods, they started a fire, they dug a snow cave. Had they been less experienced, they might have remained near the tent, dug it out, and survived. But avalanches are by far the biggest risk in mountains in the winter, and the more experience you have, the more you fear them. So the skiers' experience doomed them.
Damn.
Yeah. But despite that we got from the avalanche theory, there is evidence actually contradicting the avalanche theory. The location of the incident doesn't have any obvious signs of an avalanche taking place. Typically, avalanches leave certain patterns of debris distributed over a wide area, and they didn't find any evidence of that. The bodies were found within a month, and they were covered with only or at least the first 5 were, and they were covered with only a very shallow layer of snow. Had there been an avalanche, they would have expected the bodies to have been swept away as well, and would have caused more serious or different injuries in the process than what we saw on the ones that were found, within a month.
Yeah. So there's really no good theory.
Yep. And over 100 expeditions into the region have been held since the incident, and none of them have ever reported conditions that might create an avalanche.
Damn.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, conditions just weren't right. And an analysis of the terrain and the slope showed that even if there had been even if there could have been a very specific avalanche that found its way into the area, its path would have likely gone past the tent.
Shit.
Mhm.
I'm gonna stick with aliens.
But then we had another review of the incident that was completed from 2015 through 2019. So 4 years of investigating. By the Investigative Committee of the Russian Federation, or the ICRF, on request of the families of the people who died. And again, they confirmed, yeah, it was likely an avalanche, and they had some more details to add.
What did they say?
Well, here we go. First of all, the ICRF investigators confirmed that the weather on the night was particularly harsh, with wind speeds up to hurricane force, and a snowstorm, and temperatures reaching -40. And -40 is incidentally the temperature where Celsius and Fahrenheit are the same temperature. So -40 degrees. So even colder than the initial investigation thought.
God damn.
Yeah, that's really fucking cold. Let's see. So that wasn't considered in the initial 1959 investigation. So here's what they think happened. So the group traversing the slope, they dug a tent site, and in the slab avalanche theory, remember we said the conditions didn't seem right for an avalanche. People reported that the terrain wasn't right.
Yeah.
But part of what makes slab avalanches so dangerous is that they can occur at degrees less than 30-degree inclines, which is typically thought of as the minimal incline required to get an avalanche.
Oh, so it just breaks the fucking rules of physics.
Yeah, so slab avalanches can occur at less than a 30-degree incline due to, you have this big, heavy mass of mostly frozen snow on top of the weaker snow underneath. So the group wakes up, they hears the avalanche, and because they are experienced hikers and know how dangerous avalanches are, they panic. So with only some of them able to put on some semi-warm clothes, and this theory speculates that it was a slab avalanche and it blocked the entrance to their tent. So their tent entrance blocks, they cut a hole in the tent and they, flee down slope, try to get as far away from the avalanche as they can, and they get to the forest border. But some members have they have very incomplete clothing. Some are only in like their underwear, basically same as the other theories. They get disoriented, they get lost in the snowstorm, and they can't find their way back to the tent at this point.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that is literally the best theory we have.
Mm-hmm.
Besides aliens.
Yeah, so we're pretty sure that it was an avalanche. But interestingly enough, when I was researching this, I found an interview from The Guardian Australia's podcast that they did in 2021 that was rebroadcast by, The Guardian, basically a big worldwide news source, that they posted on their website in 2022. And this is a clip from this podcast. Where journalist Robin Andrews apparently did a lot of investigation into this case, and he discussed how the movie Frozen actually helped solve this case.
What the fuck? A fucking Disney movie?
The Disney movie helped figure this out. So Frozen comes out in 2013. And there's a man named Dr. Johann Guam, I think is how you pronounce his name. But Robin Andrews called him the chief of the Snow Avalanche Laboratory. It was just that clip. I couldn't get any information on it. But I think he meant the WSL Institute for Snow and Avalanche Research, SLF, which is a Switzerland organization. I did search this guy up. He is associated with that organization. But so Dr. Guam, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name right. Dr. Guam was watching Frozen and he noticed, wow, the snow looks really, really damn good in this movie. Like, the way it moves, the way they animate it, it looks like real snow. I am very impressed with this. So, Dr. Guam emailed Disney and basically begged them, saying, hey, you have to tell me how you did this. You have to tell me how you animated the snow and made it look that good. Because snow apparently is notoriously difficult to animate and simulate.
Billions of dollars.
It's Disney, basically. So to Disney's credit, they invited Dr. Guam out to the studio in Hollywood and met him up with their specialist who worked specifically on the snow effects for Frozen. And, Dr. Guam gets with this guy and they start looking at it. And it turns out that this was actually the most realistic snow simulation that existed at this point in time.
Like I said, billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars. So yeah, Disney had a better snow simulation than literally a snow avalanche research center.
Billions of dollars. That's all I got.
Billions of dollars. Yes. So Dr. Guam decided that he would use this simulation to help him study how avalanches occur and what it can do to a human body, how people can die from avalanches, because people do die from avalanches. Like I said, most these experienced hikers knew that is like the biggest danger they face out in the mountains. Avalanches are very bad things for people. So apparently Disney let him use this code because he tweaked the code a little bit to make his own model, to account for the impact of falling snow and what it can do to human bodies. And using this simulation, he was able to simulate the avalanche at Dyatlov Pass, given, the information on the terrain and the likely sleeping positions of the people in the tent based on where their tent was found. And he found in running these simulations that they wouldn't have needed a huge avalanche. So not like a Hollywood-style avalanche or not like a large-scale avalanche like people were initially thinking in the avalanche theory. They wouldn't have needed a huge avalanche. Maybe a block of ice only about 16 feet long to slide into the tent to cause the type of injuries that were documented.
Oh, goddamn.
Yeah.
Not that much fucking ice and snow.
When you get a block of ice that's 16 feet long and it starts moving fast enough, down a mountain, I guess it can cause pretty severe injuries. Ice is hard, and water is surprisingly heavy. That's why astronauts have to be so careful about what water they take out and why they have to recycle like their urine and everything, because water is heavy. it's not hard. It's not, I mean, it's not easy to carry up into space. Water is heavy. So yeah, when you freeze it, you've got a big heavy block of basically a rock at those temperatures, as frozen as it is.
Yeah, and imagine taking an ice cube to the face.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine being like 500 pounds.
Oh, it would 16 feet long. It would be heavier than 500 pounds, I would expect.
Couple thousand.
Yeah, it's going to be heavy, and that's evidently why you wouldn't actually need that big an avalanche to cause those injuries. And so that's it. Now that is the end. A very long-standing mystery that we now are pretty sure that we have solved, partially in thanks to Frozen.
Fucking Disney solved this fucking
Disney
shit.
helped solve the Dyatlov Pass Incident. Let it go, bitches. Actually, it's good they didn't let it go and kept looking into this mystery, because otherwise, then we wouldn't have figured this out.
Oh goddamn! I really do not like Frozen that much, but all I have to say is I give it up to Disney for spending billions of dollars and helping research this
good
shit.
job, Disney, for spending your money to get a snow simulator accurate, and good on you, Disney, for letting the research institution use your model to simulate avalanches.
You know, I really thought they were gonna say "fuck you." I was 100% ready for that.
But they didn't, so good on you, Disney. All right, so that was the Dyatlov Pass Incident. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, then like, follow, and do all the things.